Hey everybody, Hayden here. Welcome back. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to Uplift TV, where we share the story, strategies, and inspiration to help you break up with the script and craft a life that you truly love. I am super excited about today's episode. Like I've mentioned in a few previous episodes, one of the things that I really want to do with this show and just more generally online is highlight entrepreneurs that I think are doing things in a really unique and unscripted way. And Sharita and I connected a couple weeks ago. One of the things I really loved about her, obviously, was her last name, great last name, but more importantly, really connected with her story. She's been through some really incredible things, has done some really incredible things, and really wanted to invite her on and have a conversation about what she's up to in the world, where she's been, and where she's going moving forward. So Sharita, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you, Hayden. Again, this is amazing. Thank you so much. And like you said, I love your last name.
That's great last name. Well, cool. Well, I sometimes will read people's bios, but I feel like you can do that for yourself. So I'd love to hear directly from you. You know, what all are you up to in the world right now?
Okay, so in the world right now, again, I'm Sharita Humphrey. I'm an award-winning finance expert and money mentor. I help men and women across the country and now globally, thanks to the U.S. Embassy and the U.S. Department of State, working with them recently on a project to be able to activate entrepreneurs or my corepreneurs on how to be able to truly be able to get not only get financial freedom, time freedom, but also location freedom. Because anybody who's following me knows that I have a desire to live overseas starting in 2022, 12 weeks out of the year. So that's a little bit about me. I like all things finance. Saying I would definitely want to help those who are looking to take that corporate leap to be able to really get into entrepreneurship, but do it in a way that's going to set them up for financial success, but also kind of give them that peace of mind while doing it.
Most definitely. And I just remembered one of the things that we talked about when we first connected was you actually had a day named after you.
I did.
Can you tell us about that?
Yes. So I was pleasantly surprised to know that I was selected to receive my own day in the county that I live here in Texas. So it was on August 24th, I was given a proclamation that says that it is Sharita M. Humphrey Day, thanks to the financial work that I've been doing in my local county, across the state. So it was an amazing, amazing week, the last week in August, just to be able to celebrate. And it's especially during what would be considered National Black Business Month as a African-American woman entrepreneur. It was just that extra thing to kind of help to continue to motivate me to keep going on, that the work that I'm doing is definitely creating an impact, but I can't do it alone. It takes people like my team to be able to help me. I have an amazing team. Thank you to Amanda. She's an amazing publicist. She helps me to make sure that I am presenting to not only the best, the most authentic me, but the most professional me online. So I am excited to be able to do this. So definitely be able to say to you, keep showing up. Keep doing the work. Yes, the accolades are great, but being able to make sure that, you know, those within your own community are seeing your work and acknowledging them make that one of your goals.
100%. I actually had never heard about the idea of having a proclamation. So now I'm like, I need to get one of those. That's so cool. I've never met anybody like that. So that's really awesome. And, you know, one of the other things that I really appreciated about your story and what you're up to is I know you spent a decent amount of time working in government and now in your businesses, you know, you partner with local and it sounds like federal government as well. And maybe it's just the circles that I run in, but I hadn't met a ton of people who had gone that path. So I'd love to hear from you a little bit about what your entrepreneurial journey has been.
So I am the first full-time entrepreneur in my family. We didn't come from much. Just to give you guys a little bit of backstory, so that you know that it was a journey, not a sprint. I'm still every chapter, every day that I wake up, I'm doing something to defy statistically what from where I'm from, that we're not supposed to be doing the things that I'm doing. So like I said, we didn't have a lot of money conversations in our household. No fault to my parents. They can't teach you what they don't know. And so for me, just having those things and being able to see it, even as an 8-year-old child, I just kind of just knew that this probably shouldn't be the way of life. But I didn't know anything else after, outside of that. And so those negative mindsets and being able to see and not having those pivotal money conversations very early on definitely set the downward spiral into what would later become my story per se, is me at a very young age with two small children. We lost our home, so we were evicted, and we literally didn't have an address for not a couple of weeks, not a couple of months, but over a year. And so for me, that was the thing that really helped to shape me being here talking to Hayden today, because if it wasn't for that particular moment in my life, if they were like, what's the why? Yes, it was my children and I wanted us to be able to get out of that situation. But the thing that pushed me the most was knowing that I didn't have an address. When when I was trying to fill out things, I stopped filling out for things because I'm like, where were they going to send it? And so that was the thing that really clicked for me, that if I didn't change the dynamics of where we were, that it was always going to be like this. And so I just decided, I took that particular moment in my life and I used it as fuel. And I started to learn everything that I could about finances, money, wealth, credit, savings, how to be able to truly set the tone and make the promise that I made to my two children, that we were never going to live this way again, that I was going to break the mold that was hanging over our family for generations, and that I was going to show them a different way, that you don't have to work until you die, that you don't have to live with eviction notices, that you don't have to live paycheck to paycheck, that is not a norm, and it's not an okay norm. And so, of course, that was always scary because I never did it before. And of course, I know my family was just kind of like, well, this is how it is. And then I was like, no, it's not. And I guess my mom always told me as a child I was a rebel. And I remember selling, that just bothered me as a kid, because my mom was always like, you're the rebel. You're always going to think the dreamer, the big And I said, you know what? When I became evicted, I said, you know what? Rebel became such a negative thing to me. So how do I change that? So I said, you know what? I'm a trailblazer. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to create my own path. And so I did that. So I decided to learn everything that I could, but I knew the one thing that was on my bucket list was to secure a job with the government. And I did that. I said, but the one thing that was very pivotal for me is the part of the government that I worked for, credit was a very major factor. So had I not hit that rock bottom and realized that, look, for me to be able to secure and change the financial trajectory of my life, and to really be able to get a stable home and an environment that is stable, that I was going to have to be able to do the foundational things that I didn't, unfortunately, that were not laid out for me. So I just wanted to make sure that I did not pass that on, just like they said that cancer and other things are hereditary, but so are negative money behaviors. Those are things that we continue to transfer over to generations, and becomes normal. So I didn't want to, if that was one thing that I could stop in my family, I wanted to make sure that I was the person who was doing it. And so that's why I said I was a trailblazer. And I was like, I told my kids, I said, I'm going to teach you guys how to be financial trailblazers. It's going to be the one thing that I'm going to equip you with. That's going to be a lifelong thing that no one can take from you. And you'll know how to be able to come out of negative money situations and, job loss and all the other things, and be able to really have a blueprint on how to be able to do it. So secured a government job. And I thought that was it for me. I was just like, you know what? I got here, hundreds of interviews before me. They came down to 2 people, and I was one of the 2. And so for me, I just thought that was going to be it for us. I was excited to change my whole trajectory, financially, personally, everything. And so, but especially for the environment for me and my children. But you would have thought that after all of that hard work, that I was just like, something was in me. Every single time I kept seeing more families torn apart, especially small businesses, especially new trailblazers, new people who were starting and going out there and said, hey, I have a passion and I'm going to start a business. And I started to see, because they did not have certain financial knowledge, the education on how to be able to run a business, that a lot of times that they got into compliance issues with their local, state, and the federal government. So that just kept tugging at me. And I remember the day that I just told my mom I'm going to quit my job. And so she just told me, she said, I'm not surprised. But she didn't say it in a way. She's just like, you've always been a rebel. And I was like, no. She said, no. She finally I had changed my mom's words. And she said, you've always been a trailblazer. You're going to do it. You're going to do it your own way. And so I left my government job to start this business. But I did it with a plan. So I had a plan. I knew that for me to be, I did not want to go back to where I was before. So I had to do it with a plan. I had to leave with a plan of action. So I literally I got 1 month ahead of my finances, 2 months ahead of my finances, 3 months ahead. And before I knew it was a year. And so I'm a side hustle queen, because I said, you know what, I'm going to make sure that I can eliminate as much debt as I can, because I didn't want to take debt into, the current debt that I had into my entrepreneurial journey, because I knew I was going to have to make a financial investment there as well. But I decided to make sure that I opened up what I call my dream account. And I was going to fund my dream while I still had an employer who was going to pay me. So I looked at them as my silent partner. So that's why I'm an advocate. Tell corepreneurs, those who are still with corporate America and that are entrepreneurs, shift your mindset when you're looking at your employer as your silent partner, because they're helping to invest into your dream. And so that is what I did. I left my government job. And, I remember everybody saying, are you sure? You're so young. Are you sure? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, you'll be back. No, haven't been back yet. But the funny thing is I always had a passion to work with the government. And I decided, a year and a half ago, that I was going to turn back to what was my bucket list position, but do it on this side, so that way I can own my time. And now I'm a government contractor. So the same work that I do for entrepreneur, the small business community, I now sell my services to the government as a consultant. I write and develop financial curriculum and business curriculum to be able to help local, state, and government agencies to really be able to have the right communications to help to empower small businesses and to really be able to help make them become more bankable, because our country is built off the small business. So it is very important that our governments on every level understand how important it is to communicate them and invest into their dreams. So that is the work that I've been doing, and it is absolutely amazing to be able to now come back and be able to share with you guys that although I left my bucket list job of working with the government, that life became full circle in my business, and I'm still being able to now work with the government, not only in the state that I live in, but across the country.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing all that. There's so much that I want to comment on in what you shared. But I think one of the biggest things and what I really hear in your story is this idea of it's like what you said, creating your own path, being a trailblazer. I think this is so important and a really foundational mindset shift, both for entrepreneurs, but really for anybody, is looking at how do I define a vision for my future based on what I want versus what I have seen or haven't seen. Because I think that's where a lot of people get caught is, well, I've never seen it done that way before, or this is the only way that I've seen it done. And so people get stuck inside this script of how it's supposed to look versus actually looking at, well, what do I want? What could it look like? What is the best of both worlds? How can I have, my bucket list job, but do it on my terms and only work 4 days a week or 3 days a week and be able to homeschool and, do those kinds of things. So I think that's super brilliant. And, you shared a little bit about it, but in looking at how you've built your business over the last couple of years, I'd be curious for you, where have you struggled with the script? This is how I'm supposed to build my business, or this is how I'm supposed to work with people. And how did you break out of that?
I have to say in the very beginning, because like I said, I was the first person in my family to do anything like this, especially just to do it with no corporate safety net. So this was just on me to kind of figure it out. But one of the things that I would have to say is that in the very beginning, I didn't know I was like a small fish in a big pond, in a sea or a big pond, trying to figure out who I was, how to be able to communicate to people what I do, how I add value, but to let them know that I have a story that can relate to them. And I didn't know how to do that because I develop imposter syndrome, just to be very honest with you, because I'm like, how can I talk to them about being a finance expert? Did you tell me you were homeless with 2 kids? I don't know if I can trust your your financial expertise. So I battled with that for so long, and it stifled me for so long because I didn't know my voice, or I was reading off of a script that, that people gave to me that I was going to kind of help me craft what I thought was my message. But then I became very robotic, and I didn't show up the way that I authentically knew what I wanted to say and how I wanted to help people, because I thought that it had to look a certain way. I thought that I needed to invest into the websites. I needed to do these things. I needed to have this person on my team, that I needed to do those things. But, just hindsight, and it's always 2020. But they were teachable things. I didn't need all of those things. I just needed to be my most authentic self, and to be able to craft the things that was going to attract people to me, to be able to utilize my story, to be able to bring people in, but really make sure that I'm building functions that's going to be able to serve them once I was able to get people on board with that know, like, and trust factor. So all of the things that make things look pretty, those are great. But at the end of the day, you don't want to just be a nice looking storefront, but all of the things in the background, systems and processes are all over the place. Because then what happens is you ultimately can lose, that particular audience, or you're starting to feel financially overwhelmed, and you're like, man, I really quit my job for this. And this is you start to think about all of those things. So that would be one of the things that I would share about how I finally got off script. And it took me until 2019, the latter part of 2019, for me to just say, you know what, I'm just going to go back to the basics. I just let everything and everybody go. And I just said, you know what, if this is what I needed to be able to come out and really be able to say, I'm happy doing the work and being an entrepreneur, then I will start at rock bottom. I will start at the bottom again. But remember, I already had the blueprint of being able to hit the rock bottom. So for me, it was just, okay, now I can just pull back all of the things. I can really just be able to come up with a strategy and a plan for myself that's going to make me happy and put me back onto my calendar and make me a priority, because I can't show up in my zone of genius if I am pulled all over the place financially, mentally stressed. Yeah, all the money in the world doesn't make you happy. I learned that very early on. And I learned that very early on. And then, being physically and emotionally and mentally stressed out. That was not the way that I wanted my entrepreneurship journey to be. So even though I felt like I had to start over, it was the best thing for me, because I finally just tore up the script and I just went off, I just went at it. I didn't care about the ums and, oh, wait, did I say that right? Wait, is there a hair out of place? Wait, I can't post because I missed a day, and all of those things. I just said, you know what? There's not going to be a script. I don't have anything. I don't have, when I hit the Facebook Live thing, I didn't have anything. I just did it. I just needed to get it out, so that way that people could see that I don't have everything figured out. I'm a work in progress, just like them. And so when I started to do that, I became so happy, and I attracted the right people around me in my personal life and in my business.
Yeah. That's super brilliant. Really the two key things that I hear in that, it sounds like the first is coming back to and really having a grasp on the basics. And I know that a lot with the folks that I work with and a lot of entrepreneurs that I connect with, is sometimes it's really easy to get caught up in maybe the vanity metrics or the things that seem like they're important, like the put together website or, social media content or what have you, when in reality, like a nice website's not going to pay your bills, paying clients are going to pay your bills. So actually coming back to, the basics, because I think so much of crafting an unscripted life and business is about trying things and pivoting. And if you don't have a firm grasp on the basics, makes it really difficult to do. The second thing I really heard in what you shared was authenticity. Understanding, who am I? What's the uniqueness of my spirit, of my energy? How do I want to work with people or not work with people? Because fundamentally, if everything is aligned around what is true for you, that's a lot stronger. The legacy is much more likely to last, and you're going to have a much better and more fun time building it versus trying to do things because you think that you should be doing them.
Right. Yeah. Yes. That is like such a teachable moment, Hayden. Yes, what you just said, because you want to be happy. There's already a lot going on. Entrepreneurship is already a lot of things, a lot of moving parts, and you don't want to add on unnecessary things or try to keep up with the status quo when it's just really not something that's not even who you are. And the people who really are watching what you're doing and attracted to you, they'll know it too. They'll know it too. So that's why it's okay to be your most authentic self, because there's an audience and clients who are attracted to you and the services and the gift and the value that you provide.
Yeah. I know one of the things that can get in people's way is this sense of, who am I to do this? Or, who am I to work with these people? And, similar to what you shared earlier, one of the things that you struggled with, and I definitely know that I've struggled with, is this idea of imposter syndrome. And so, would be curious for you, like, what did that look like for you? And how did you end up overcoming that?
I'd have to say that it took a while to overcome, because I didn't realize that imposter syndrome started even before entrepreneurship. Because one of the things was I'm a big advocate of mental wellness and mental well-being. I believe in, physical health and all of the things, but mentally, those things, to really align those, they go hand in hand. And so for me, I just mentally was smiling. So if you guys go back to, and I'm gonna be authentic here. If you go back a couple of years back and you kind of just saw things, it just kind of just looked very scripted, because it was, just because I didn't like my voice. I always thought it sounded kind of raspy and weird. And so I was just kind of like, I don't know if I like that. So I would record stuff like over and over again, thinking like, your vocals are not going to change. But the imposter syndrome will be like, you can just keep, and then you're dealing with imposter syndrome and perfectionism. Oh, that's a whole thing, So for me, it stifled me for so long. All of those gifts and things that the goals and that I wrote down, I was not able to manifest them because I was battling with imposter syndrome with a little bit of perfectionism. Like, no, I can't put that out yet because it's not perfect. It doesn't have this, it doesn't do this. And then when it came time to do it, I was scared. Okay, is anybody gonna like it? What was I doing? What if I put this out? Are they gonna think I'm crazy? Social media is things. I don't want to deal with this. My job makes me an extrovert. The inside of me, Sharita, is very much an introvert. I can stay in my back cave and be okay. But my job brings out somebody else. And my husband's always like, he was just like, he said, you just love what he said. I can tell that you love now what you do. I can see that. He was just like, I see that you get excited about this thing. And he was like, before I felt like it was a root canal. You're like, I don't really want to do this, but I'm going to do it. I said, you know how you're smiling, but one of the things is I always tell people, look at the person's eyes. It tells a lot. It tells a lot. I was just like, because you can have the most beautiful 32s and all of these things, but guess what? If your eyes say so much, because it's the gateway to who you are. And so a lot of times I was just smiling, but in the inside, I didn't feel confident. In the inside, I'm just like, wait a minute, I shouldn't have ate that should I ate that extra Chick-fil-A? And I love Chick-fil-A. Okay. Those waffle fries will get me. But I'm just like, oh, I don't feel right in my dress. Like, can you crop this? All the things were going through my mind. But guess what? Those were things that I needed to be able to deal with. And that's why I said therapy was such a gift to myself. It's on my calendar. When I say put you on your calendar, 1 o'clock every other Thursday It's not happening. 1 to 2 belongs to me and my therapist, because those are things that I needed to be able to show up and be the person who's showing up now. Because a lot of times we're bringing into entrepreneurship all the things that we didn't kind of heal from, all the things, and not just entrepreneurship, but just in your life in general, relationships, finances, business, but really being able to get to the root of where is that imposter syndrome really stemming from. It's not just
100%.
about the entrepreneurship. It's just that you've identified it within the entrepreneurship journey. You've identified
Absolutely.
it. So it was something there already. The entrepreneur, you jumping into entrepreneurship or having to put yourself out there really helped you to identify it.
Yeah, it's so funny. One of the things that I say a lot, and I picked up from a friend, was we were having a conversation around success and business ownership and building a business, and we were talking about how, you know, success, yes, does come from the strategy and business development and operations and that sort of thing, but I think more importantly, it really comes from what happened to you when you were 6, and how are you now addressing that, you know, and the way that it's getting in the way of you creating the results that you want. And I think that's so spot on in what you shared around overcoming imposter syndrome. Like, really the 2 key things that I heard in what you said were, you know, one was just staying committed to the path and understanding that is going to come up. And, you know, I talk so often with clients who share that they're afraid of doing something, and that stops them from moving through it. And it's this conversation of, okay, well, what if the fear never leaves? What if the fear never goes away? Like, then what are you going to do about it? You're going to do something about it. You're going to do it anyways. So it's staying committed to the path and understanding that the imposter syndrome, I think, never goes away entirely. It might just come up in new and different ways. And you just get to be responsible for that, you know? And the second piece that I heard was really looking at how can I get supported in my own mental health and healing what happened to me when I was younger. So actually investing in yourself, investing in your mental health, investing in your personal development. You know, obviously that's so much of what I do as a coach with the people that I work with, but, you know, I walk the walk just as much as I talk the talk, you know, in terms of the coaches that I hire, the groups that I'm in, the therapists that I work with, because that's so much of creating a life and a business that really works for you and is an authentic expression of you, is being able to work through those internal blocks and obstacles.
And I think that's why, Hayden, so many of your clients are attracted to you, or people just who may come across you on social media is attracted to what you're saying and what you're doing and how you're adding value and helping your clients to truly be able to manage in a very holistic way, because you're walking the walk. People want to be able to know, I connect with those who I know who can really be able to add value to the conversation or add value to what I'm doing, because they understand, because they, even if it's not the direct path, they can understand what I'm saying and what I'm trying to overcome. So that is very, very key, because sometimes there's a lot of people may be hiring coaches or consultants and even therapists that don't really understand where you're coming from. And that's okay. So that's why it's always thing to be able to really look and seek for those who can really be able to help and understand where you are and where you're coming from, because that's what's going to be the best client coaching, consulting relationships and business relationships. Because guess what? People like ecosystems. Like I always tell my clients, I said, there is a difference. And I'm talking about it from a finance standpoint, but it's still about mindset. There's a difference between a network and an ecosystem. And I said, and they're always like, what? It's the same. And I was like, no. I said, because guess what? Your network lets you pull people. It's like everybody's in the room. It's kind of like when everybody's applying for that one job on LinkedIn or Indeed. Everybody wants that position. So there's a pool of people, but your ecosystem lets you narrow it down to really be able to see the people who are qualified to be in your personal life, to know your business, and who can help you to elevate in your personal life and in your business. So that's why I always tell people that, because you can't be everywhere. A lot of opportunities that I get come from my ecosystem, because they know me, they know my desires, and they know where I want to be able to take not only myself but my clients. And so they're speaking for me when I'm not in the room. So
Yeah.
it's the same thing for me when someone says, "Hey, I need a coach who's committed to me, and they're going to live unscripted." So who do you think I'm going to call? Let me connect you with Hayden. I've already done the verification for them. So now I've built the know, like, and trust factor for Hayden, and he's never spoke to them because they know that if I've referred them, then he's in my ecosystem.
100%. Yeah. I think that's so powerful, creating those kinds of relationships and being super intentional about how you build it. Amazing. Well, as we wrap up here, there's a question that I love to ask everybody at the end of the show. So Sharita, what does living unscripted mean to you?
Living unscripted to me means being able to not have to worry about, or what does that mean that's going around? Like, did I do this? Like, wait, did I forget this? Like, I just want to be able to just go to bed and go to sleep. Unscripted means that everything that I did within the day was everything that made Sharita happy. And that pours over into everybody around me. My husband, our children, my family, and our business, and my clients. So as long as I can do that and be me and really be able to live and be Sharita M. Humphrey, then that is what being living unscripted is for me, because I want to be able to be the best person to myself, but the best people to the people who are around me, and have the gift to be able to be in my life and for a lifetime. So that is what unscripted to me has been, and I'm still learning it and unpacking that. But thus far, I have to say that I'm happy with the Sharita life unscripted today.
Yes, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. I love that. I love that answer. Where can people find you if they're interested in learning more information or connecting with you?
So you can definitely, for those who are just wanting to learn a little bit more about me and my journey, I tell you can follow me there at sharitamhumphrey.com. For those who are entrepreneurs or core entrepreneurs who are ready to take that corporate leap and want to be able to know how to be able to make the government one of their biggest customers while being able to build consistent revenue, you can reach me over at changeinmotion.co. This is where all the business and finance and government magic happens. But I am Sharita MH on all social media platforms. I love to connect. My DMs are open. I know my team is probably going to hate me for that, but I like to connect with people. So I definitely want to be able to connect with you. Thank you, Hayden, for having me and allowing me to tell my story unscripted.
Absolutely. Sharita, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for all y'all who are tuning in. If you're watching this as a replay, let us know what you thought in the comments with hashtag replay. If you're interested in connecting with more folks like Sharita and getting involved in a community of like-minded business owners, I've got a networking group that I run every other week called Business Unscripted. The next one's going to be on the 22nd, which is a Wednesday. So it's actually before this show on Wednesday. 12 to 1 Central. I'll drop the link if you want to learn more about that in the comments. But Sharita, again, thank you so much for being here. Looking forward to staying in touch, and hope you have a great rest of your week.
You too. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Talk soon. Bye.